Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing your economics exam preparation series. This is topic 4. We are discussing price determination and elasticity. This topic appears in your exams every single year. In this lesson, you will learn how price is determined in a free market, the concept of elasticity, price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply, and how to answer exam questions. Let us begin. First, let us review how price is determined. In a free market, price is determined by the interaction of demand and supply. The equilibrium price is the price where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. At this price, there is no shortage and no surplus. The market clears. This is the price that consumers pay and producers receive. But what happens when the government interferes with the market? Sometimes the government sets a maximum price or a minimum price. These are called price controls. A maximum price is also called a price ceiling. A price ceiling is a legal maximum price set below the equilibrium price. The government sets a price that sellers cannot charge above. For example, the government might set a maximum price for bread to make it affordable for poor people. When a price ceiling is set below equilibrium, it causes a shortage. At the lower price, quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied.
Consumers want to buy more than producers are willing to sell.
This leads to queues, rationing, and black markets. The shortage will persist as long as the price ceiling remains. A minimum price is also called a price floor. A price floor is a legal minimum price set above the equilibrium price. The government sets a price that sellers cannot charge below. Producers want to sell more than consumers are willing to buy. The government may have to buy the surplus to support the price. Minimum wage is an example of a price floor in the labor market. When minimum wage is set above the equilibrium wage, it causes a surplus of labor, which is unemployment. Now let us move to elasticity. What is elasticity? Elasticity is a measure of how much buyers and sellers respond to changes in market conditions. It measures responsiveness. The concept of elasticity was developed by Alfred Marshall, a famous economist. Elasticity helps us answer questions like, if the price of a good rises by 10%, by how much will the quantity demanded fall? If it falls by a lot, demand is elastic. If it falls by a little, demand is inelastic. Let me define price elasticity of demand. The formula is price elasticity of demand equals percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. The answer is usually negative because price and quantity demanded move in opposite directions. But economists often ignore the minus sign and talk about the absolute value. If the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, demand is elastic. This means that quantity demanded responds more than proportionally to a change in price. A 10% increase in price leads to more than a 10% decrease in quantity demanded. Luxury goods often have elastic demand. For example, if the price of a vacation goes up, people will buy much less. If the price elasticity of demand is less than 1, demand is inelastic. This means that quantity demanded responds less than proportionally to a change in price. A 10% increase in price leads to less than a 10% decrease in quantity demanded. Necessities often have inelastic demand. For example, if the price of salt goes up, people will still buy about the same amount. If the price elasticity of demand equals exactly 1, demand is unit elastic. This means that quantity demanded responds exactly proportionally to a change in price. A 10% increase in price leads to exactly a 10% decrease in quantity demanded. There are two extreme cases. If the price elasticity of demand is 0, demand is perfectly inelastic. Quantity demanded does not change at all when price changes. The demand curve is vertical. For example, a life-saving drug for a unique disease might have perfectly inelastic demand. If the price goes up, patients will still buy it because they have no choice. If the price elasticity of demand is infinite, demand is perfectly elastic. Quantity demanded changes infinitely when price changes. The demand curve is horizontal. For example, a farmer selling wheat in a competitive market can sell all he wants at the market price. If he tries to charge even €1 more, he will sell nothing. What determines whether demand is elastic or inelastic? There are several factors. First, availability of close substitutes. Goods with many close substitutes have more elastic demand. For example, if the price of Coca-Cola rises, people can switch to Pepsi. Demand for Coca-Cola is elastic. Goods with few substitutes have more inelastic demand. For example, there is no close substitute for insulin. Demand for insulin is inelastic. Second, necessity versus luxury. Necessities have inelastic demand. Luxuries have elastic demand. For example, food is a necessity. Even if food prices rise, people still need to eat. Demand for food is inelastic. A luxury cruise is a luxury. If prices rise, people will cancel their trips. Demand for cruises is elastic. Third, definition of the market. Narrowly defined markets have more elastic demand. Broadly defined markets have more inelastic demand. For example, the demand for vanilla ice cream is elastic because you can switch to chocolate. But the demand for ice cream in general is less elastic. The demand for food is very inelastic because you cannot stop eating. Fourth, time horizon. Demand is more elastic in the long run than in the short run. When the price of petrol rises, you cannot change your car immediately. In the short run, demand is inelastic. But over time, you can buy a more fuel-efficient car. In the long run, demand is more elastic. Now let me explain price elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of supply measures how much the quantity supplied of a good responds to a change in the price of that good. It is calculated as the percentage change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in price. The formula is price elasticity of supply equals percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. The answer is usually positive because price and quantity supplied move in the same direction. If the price elasticity of supply is greater than 1, supply is elastic. Quantity supplied responds more than proportionally to a change in price. If the price elasticity of supply is less than 1, supply is inelastic. Quantity supplied responds less than proportionally to a change in price. If it equals 1, supply is unit elastic. What determines whether supply is elastic or inelastic? The most important factor is time. Supply is more elastic in the long run than in the short run. In the short run, firms cannot easily change their production capacity. They can only adjust by using existing capacity more or less. So supply is inelastic. In the long run, firms can build new factories, hire more workers, or enter or exit the market. So supply is more elastic. Other factors include the availability of raw materials. If raw materials are readily available, supply is more elastic. If they are scarce, supply is more inelastic. Also, the complexity of production matters. Simple goods can be produced quickly, so supply is elastic. Complex goods take time to produce, so supply is inelastic. Now let me explain income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a good responds to a change in consumers' income. It is calculated as the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in income. For normal goods, income elasticity is positive. As income rises, quantity demanded rises. For inferior goods, income elasticity is negative. As income rises, quantity demanded falls. For example, as income rises, people buy less ramen noodles and more steak. Ramen noodles are inferior. Steak is normal. If income elasticity is greater than 1, the good is a luxury. A 10% increase in income leads to more than a 10% increase in quantity demanded. For example, fancy cars and expensive vacations are luxuries. If income elasticity is between 0 and 1, the good is a necessity. A 10% increase in income leads to less than a 10% increase in quantity demanded. For example, food and clothing are necessities. Now let me explain cross-elasticity of demand. Cross-elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of one good responds to a change in the price of another good. It is calculated as the percentage change in quantity demanded of good A divided by the percentage change in the price of good B. For substitutes, cross-elasticity is positive. If the price of coffee rises, the quantity demanded of tea increases. Tea and coffee are substitutes. For complements, cross-elasticity is negative. If the price of cars rises, the quantity demanded of petrol falls. Cars and petrol are complements. If cross-elasticity is 0, the goods are unrelated. For example, the price of shoes has no effect on the demand for oranges. Now let me explain how elasticity affects total revenue. Total revenue is the amount of money a firm receives from selling its product. It is calculated as price times quantity. When demand is inelastic, an increase in price leads to an increase in total revenue. The quantity falls by a smaller percentage than the price rises, so total revenue goes up. When demand is elastic, an increase in price leads to a decrease in total revenue. The quantity falls by a larger percentage than the price rises, so total revenue goes down. When demand is unit elastic, an increase in price leaves total revenue unchanged. The quantity falls by exactly the same percentage as the price rises. This is very important for businesses. If a business wants to increase total revenue, it should raise the price if demand is inelastic. It should lower the price if demand is elastic. For example, demand for petrol is inelastic. When petrol companies raise prices, their total revenue increases. Demand for restaurant meals is elastic. When a restaurant raises prices, it may lose many customers and total revenue may fall. A common exam question asks you to define price elasticity of demand and explain the factors that affect it. Here is a sample answer. Price elasticity of demand measures how much quantity demanded responds to a change in price. It is calculated as percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Factors that affect elasticity include the availability of close substitutes, whether the good is a necessity or luxury, the definition of the market, and the time horizon. Goods with many substitutes, luxury goods, narrowly defined markets, and longer time horizons have more elastic demand. Another exam question asks you to calculate price elasticity of demand from given data. Here is your answer. Suppose the price of a good rises from 10 naira to 12 naira, and quantity demanded falls from 100 units to 80 units. The percentage change in price is 2 divided by 11 times 100, which is about 18.2%. The percentage change in quantity demanded is negative 20 divided by 90 times 100, which is about negative 22.2%. The price elasticity of demand is 22.2 divided by 18.2, which is about 1.22. Since this is greater than 1, demand is elastic. Another exam question asks you to distinguish between price elasticity, income elasticity, and cross-elasticity. Here is your answer. Price elasticity of demand measures responsiveness to changes in the price of the same good. Income elasticity of demand measures responsiveness to changes in consumers' income. Cross-elasticity of demand measures responsiveness to changes in the price of another good. Price elasticity is used to predict how quantity demanded changes when price changes. Income elasticity is used to identify normal and inferior goods. Cross-elasticity is used to identify substitutes and complements. Another exam question asks you to explain the relationship between price elasticity and total revenue. Here is your answer. When demand is inelastic, price and total revenue move in the same direction. An increase in price increases total revenue. When demand is elastic, price and total revenue move in opposite directions. An increase in price decreases total revenue. When demand is unit elastic, total revenue does not change when price changes. This relationship helps businesses make pricing decisions. Let me summarize what you have learned. Price is determined by demand and supply. Government price controls like price ceilings and price floors cause shortages and surpluses. Elasticity measures responsiveness. Price elasticity of demand measures how quantity demanded responds to price changes. It is affected by substitutes, necessity, market definition, and time. Price elasticity of supply measures how quantity supplied responds to price changes. It is mainly affected by time. Income elasticity measures response to income changes. Cross-elasticity measures response to price changes of other goods. Elasticity helps predict how total revenue changes when price changes. That is all for Topic 4. Practice calculating elasticity. Practice identifying elastic and inelastic goods. Practice explaining the factors that affect elasticity. See you in Topic 5.